그냥 화만 내는 소설은 쓸 수가 없더라고요. 이제는 최소한 이 세계가 왜 그런지 스스로 설명은 할 수 있어야 된다라는 생각이 들었고, 마냥 비극적인 이야기만을 쓰기에는 저보다 어린 친구들한테 너무 미안하고, 그래서 완전한 희망은 내가 모르겠지만 우리가 조금 더 나아질 수 있는 방향으로 생각을 해야 되지 않을까? 이 세상 다 망해버렸으면 좋겠어 라는 생각은 정말 어릴 때나 할 수 있는 생각이지 라는 생각이 들어서 좀 더 어른스러워지자, 어른의 생각을 하자, 그런 생각들이 소설에도 그대로 반영이 되는 것 같아요. 그래서 좀 더 책임감을 느끼게 됐어요. 이 부조리한 세상에 대해. 저는 이제 내가 되는 꿈이라는 제목의 장편 소설이 이제 막 나왔어요. 그래서 이제 며칠, 한 2, 3일 뒤면은 독자분들께 전해질 수 있을 것 같고, 그거는 제가 되게 오랜만에 쓰는 것 같은 성장소설이에요. 그리고 앞으로도 계속 이런 생활을 지키면서 글을 쓰는 삶을 살고 싶습니다. 당장 쓰고 싶은 이야기는 이제 막 탈고를 했기 때문에 아직 없는 걸로.
Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. U.S. President Donald Trump says he has not yet decided whether the U.S. military will join Israel's attacks on Iran, keeping the world guessing over his next move. Tensions continue to escalate as Iran's supreme leader says his nation will not surrender to anyone. The U.S. Central Bank has left its benchmark interest rate unchanged amid Trump's policy changes and tensions in the Middle East. Federal Reserve officials maintain their forecast of 2 rate cuts for the rest of the year. President Lee Jae Myung is now back in Seoul after wrapping up his trip to Canada. He will preside over a cabinet meeting where officials will review the supplementary budget plan. As Washington deliberates its role in the conflict between Israel and Iran, global attention is on unfolding developments and the potential for further escalation. Our Munera has the details.
U.S. President Donald Trump kept the international community on edge with an ambiguous response to whether Washington would join Israel's military campaign against Iranian nuclear sites. Speaking to reporters at the White House on Wednesday local time, he said that he had yet to make a final call and he would hold off doing so for now.
I have ideas as to what to do, but I haven't made a final. I like to make the final decision 1 second before it's due, because things change. I mean, especially with war. Things change with war. It can go from one extreme to the other.
Shortly afterwards, he convened a second White House Situation Room meeting in as many days to discuss the agenda with his national security advisors. The talks lasted for around an hour, and it is not yet clear what was discussed or whether any decisions were made. According to the Wall Street Journal, Trump told senior aides late Tuesday that he had approved plans for a potential military strike on Iran, but decided to pause, hoping Tehran might still give up its nuclear program. Earlier in the day, Trump claimed that Iran had proposed to come to the White House to begin negotiations and once again called for unconditional surrender. In response, Iran's diplomatic mission to the United Nations in New York hit back on social media by saying that no Iranian official has asked to grovel at the gates of the White House, followed by a message from Iran's supreme leader himself.
The Iranian nation stands firm against the imposed war, as it has stood so far, and stands firm against the imposed peace. The Iranian nation will not surrender to anyone in the face of imposition.
In the meantime, Israel downgraded its domestic security level on the assessment that Tehran's retaliatory capabilities have weakened after days of intense airstrikes. Israeli authorities have also begun operating return flights for Israeli citizens abroad, while other nations move to evacuate their own nationals from Israel. The U.S. State Department has started pulling out non-essential diplomats and is arranging evacuation flights and ships for American citizens, while China is also working to evacuate its citizens. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
The U.S. Federal Reserve has kept its key rate unchanged for the fourth straight meeting in June, citing economic uncertainty stemming from Trump's tariff policy and rising inflation. Our Moon Ji-young reports.
The U.S. Federal Reserve kept its key rate unchanged for the fourth straight meeting Wednesday and lowered the country's economic growth outlook. This keeps the rate in the 4.25 to 4.5% range and marks the fourth consecutive rate freeze since Trump took office, despite pressure to make cuts.
What we're waiting for to reduce rates is to understand what will happen with really the tariff inflation. And there's a lot of uncertainty about that.
So far, inflation has remained relatively tame near the Fed's target of 2%. However, economists warn it may take months for the effects of tariffs to be felt. Inflation has also seen recent upward pressure from rising oil prices driven by the conflict between Israel and Iran. However, Fed officials still foresee 2 interest rate cuts by the end of this year, the same as they projected in March. The central bank's latest quarterly projections show noticeably weaker growth, higher inflation, and slightly higher unemployment by the end of this year than it had forecast in March. For this year, Fed officials expect inflation to rise to 3%, unemployment to increase to 4.5%, and growth to slow to 1.4%. The Fed also projects GDP to grow by 1.4% in 2025, down from 1.7% projected in March.
Following growth of 2.5% last year, GDP was reported to have edged down in the first quarter, reflecting swings in net exports that were driven by businesses bringing in imports ahead of potential tariffs.
President Donald Trump has publicly criticized Powell for not cutting rates, increasing pressure on the central bank. But the Fed chairman dismissed criticism, saying, quote, "We are in a good place." Meanwhile, this week's decision has widened the benchmark rate gap between South Korea and the U.S. at up to 2 percentage points, with the Bank of Korea slashing its key rate to 2.5% in its last meeting in May. Moon Ji-young, Arirang News.
So as we just heard, the U.S. Federal Reserve has left its key interest rate unchanged for the fourth time. For more on this, we have Professor Kim Myung-jin, professor at Seoul Business School. Professor Kim, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Morning. So the Fed has decided to hold its key interest rate steady, and this is something that was widely expected. What's behind this decision?
Right. As you mentioned, the Federal Reserve Board kept interest rate steady in a range between 4.25% to 4.5%, where it has been, since last December. This decision was expected, by the market expert. The key reasons are the expectations of higher inflation and low economic growth ahead. President Trump's tariff policy is being expected to cause serious price increase in the near future, and conflict between Israel and Iran may, push up the oil price, which will cause the economic, downturn, along with the tariff policy, as well as, the price hike in the consumer price. And these factors, directly influence the Fed decision to stay with the same interest rate.
I see. And the Fed indicated that it may cut rates twice this year. What does this imply?
Yes, they indicated two interest cut this year. Even though the Fed had decided to hold its key interest rate stay this time within this year, it may cut the key interest rate twice due to worries of the economic recession or stagflation. That's the main reason, right? And then even though they are worried about the price hike, due to the tariff policy and Israel and Iran, conflict, but still the worries about the economic recession is a little bit bigger. The numbers, may, give some hints. The Fed revised the forecast for GDP with a decrease of 0.3 percentage point from 1.7% to 1.4%. But for the core personal consumption expenditure price index, which eliminates food and energy prices, with an increase of 0.3 percentage point at 3.1%. The unemployment outlook was, raised by 0.1 percentage point higher than March, and then 0.3 percentage point, higher than the current level. It will be up to 4.5%. With this forecast, that's not very good, and it's kind of gloomy. The Fed kept its original plan for the rate cut twice this year.
I see. And now with the interest rate freeze, what happens next? How will this affect the Bank of Korea's decision on Korea's interest rates?
Well, that's nothing much, right? The Fed key interest decision show that the Fed is in the double bind. The President Trump put pressure on, Fed Chair Jerome Powell a lot to cut the rate by 2%. But, Mr. Trump's, tariff policy may, cause big risk of serious increase in the consumer and supply price. And also Israel and Iran conflict, and still the Russia and Ukraine war not settled yet, may throw another, big threat to the price, management of the Fed. So the Fed will see what will be happening next before they, make a move to a rate cut next time. According to my understanding, due to this, Fed decision, BOK will keep the rate steady at the next meeting. The interest gap between the U.S. and Korea is now 2.0%, which is, largest yet. So basically, there's no room for BOK to cut the rate anymore.
Right. And how will the Fed's latest decision affect Korean businesses and investors in Korea?
Well, the interest rate gap is same, and then everybody expected the Fed decision would be. So I think the Fed latest decision won't affect Korean economy much. So it is very important to read the economic projection summary, including in the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's statement and dot plot, rather than the interest rate cut itself this time. because, like I mentioned, it was already expected by the market and the information is already reflected on the market activities. However, unfortunately, Jerome Powell did not say much this time. The only thing he mentioned that is the economic uncertainty decreases a little bit, but still there. The impact of tariff policy of President Trump is not yet effective. And to be effective, it'll take time. So what that means, there's nothing much we can do, and there's nothing much Fed can do, and the only thing we can do is wait and see, so that we'll see what will be happening next, and then we can move next. That's the only position Jerome Powell is taking now, and also so basically the decision of Fed. The effect of decision of the Fed will be limited to Korean economy this time.
I see. And on tariffs, how do you think the Korean government should approach trade negotiations with the United States to successfully reach a deal before the July deadline?
Well, at the G7 meeting in Canada, President Lee Jae Myung, might meet President Donald Trump. Then we may not have no reason, to delay the deadline of July. But I think that's fortunately he could not meet with Mr. Trump because he went back to home. So basically, I don't think the July 8th should be the real deadline for the deal for Korea. So Korea need to negotiate with the U.S. for the deadline. We have our own situation, which will provide good reasons for delaying the talk. We also have several leverages. Korea is one of the strongest alternatives which is able to replace China in terms of global chain. China is the main target of the trade war of the United States. And we may have to also leverage all the geopolitical factors to delay the negotiation deadline so that we can have some more time to review the result of the negotiation with other countries like China and Japan, especially with China. China is not moving at all. So the U.S. has very big problem, with dealing with China. So we see the result of the negotiation with China of the United States. So probably, we may have some time as we collaborate, with the U.S. government, positively, and U.S. government may have some, reasons to defer or delay the deadline. So we may have some time, deal with those issues as we see the result of other countries.
All right, Professor Kim, thank you so much for your insight today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
President Lee Jae Myung returned to South Korea early this morning, following a 3-day trip to Canada to attend the G7 summit. Korea's Air Force One landed at Seoul Air Base in Seongnam City just after 1 a.m. President Lee and First Lady Kim Il-kyung were welcomed by Presidential Chief of Staff Kang Won-sik and Senior Secretary for Political Affairs Woo Sang-ho. Later this afternoon, the president is scheduled to preside over a cabinet meeting at the Yongsan Presidential Office. The U.S. State Department announced Wednesday that it's resuming the process for foreigners to apply for student visas. However, in the public notice, the State Department said that new applicants who refuse to set their social media accounts to public and allow them to be reviewed may be rejected. The department added that consular officers will look for posts and messages that could be deemed hostile to the U.S., its government, culture, institutions, or founding principles. Washington last month temporarily suspended the scheduling of new visas interviews for international students while preparing its social media screening process. Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth said there will be a new standard for Asian and other allies' defense spending. This comes amid speculation that U.S. President Donald Trump may call for a hike in South Korea's share of defense spending. Our Lee Jae has more.
U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said there will be a new standard for defense spending for Asian and other U.S. allies, as the Pentagon chief reiterated U.S. President Donald Trump's call for NATO members to raise defense spending to 5% of GDP. Speaking to the Senate Armed Services Committee on Wednesday, Hegseth stressed that the U.S. cannot want the allies' security more than they do. He also said NATO heads must commit to spending 5% of GDP on defense at the NATO Heads of State meeting next week. The comments from the Pentagon chief come amid speculation that Trump might raise South Korea's defense spending or its share of the cost of stationing U.S. forces Korea. Currently, South Korea's defense spending stands at around 2.5% of its GDP. Meanwhile, during a forum hosted by the Center for Strategic and International Studies on Wednesday, U.S. Senator Andy Kim said that the Korean administration's reported consideration to decrease USFK presence in South Korea is a perfect way to derail the Seoul-Washington relationship, especially at a critically important moment for the alliance. The Korean-American senator also stressed that failing to treat U.S. allies and partners differently from adversaries is a huge mistake, adding they will cause unnecessary friction. At the same forum, former Deputy Secretary of State during the Joe Biden administration, Kurt Campbell, warned that any substantial adjustments to the USFK troop level could be misinterpreted as a sign of reduced security commitment from Washington. Campbell warned that any steps that would lower the troop presence in South Korea could lead to a crisis in confidence. The Wall Street Journal last month reported that the Pentagon was considering the idea of withdrawing some 4,500 USFK troops to other locations in the Indo-Pacific to better calibrate U.S. force posture in Korea to deter China. Lee Jae, Arirang News.
Cheonggyecheon is one of Seoul's most iconic urban streams that becomes a nice rest area, especially during the hot summertime. But it wasn't this welcoming or comforting 20 years ago. Our Park Gon-woo tells us more.
With daytime temperatures soaring past 30 degrees Celsius, people in Seoul are doing all they can to stay cool, from carrying sun umbrellas to clutching icy drinks. And for many, it's the perfect weather to enjoy the water or even get right in. And there's a special place that's drawing big crowds, the upper part of Cheonggyecheon, temporarily open to the public to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the stream's restoration. Laughter echoed as children and adults splashed, kicked up water, and even waded through stronger currents for fun. International tourists were also spotted easily, cooling off and snapping photos.
Living in somewhat of a big city, you don't normally get to see really lovely streams like this, especially when it's so hot and humid. Kind of refreshing to be able to step in the water. It was a lot of fun.
But for Seoulites, Cheonggyecheon isn't just for play. It also offers a peaceful escape from the heat.
It's been so hot lately, but by the stream, it feels cool, so it's a great place to rest. I often like coming out here for some fresh air, especially as sitting all day at work feels stuffy.
That comfort is the result of a remarkable transformation that began 2 decades ago. Cheonggyecheon was once sitting under concrete during Korea's industrial boom. Restoring it raised environmental concerns, but now it's clean enough for native fish and birds to thrive. A true case of urban ecological revival. In fact, the stream is home to around 20 native fish species, including the Korean spotted barbel, which only survives in grade 2 or cleaner water. And that's thanks to regular water and bacteria tests conducted to maintain quality. Beyond ecosystem revival, the stream is widely recognized as a successful model of urban water management, offering more than just eco-friendly value.
Cheonggyecheon helps lower the surrounding temperatures raised by heat-absorbing pavement like asphalt, and even improves air quality, acting like an air conditioner for the city.
Seoul now plans to transform more than 300 kilometers of streams running through the city into vibrant, accessible waterfront parks just like Cheonggyecheon. And as the city moves toward a more water-sensitive future, Cheonggyecheon stands as a reminder that even in the heart of a big city, nature can make a peaceful comeback. 박건우, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Choi Ji-hee, and this is The World Now. Huaiji County in China's Guangdong province is facing a once-in-a-century flooding and mass evacuations after heavy rainfall caused by Typhoon Wu-tip caused the Suijiang River to burst its banks. As of around 7 a.m. on Wednesday, the Huaiji hydrometric station recorded a peak river level at its highest ever recorded, some 5.22 meters above the warning threshold. Along the river, 7.8 kilometers of levees have been breached. Flooding has hit 19 towns, affecting around 300,000 residents, with more than 68,000 evacuated. Over half the county's roads are submerged, power and internet are down in many areas, and schools and businesses remain closed. More than 10,000 rescuers have been deployed to evacuate stranded residents. In Indonesia, dozens of flights have been canceled or delayed after Mount Lewotobi laki-laki erupted on Tuesday. The volcano on Flores Island erupted at around 5:35 p.m. local time, sending a massive ash cloud over 10 kilometers into the sky, visible up to 150 kilometers away. Authorities have raised the alert to the highest level 4. The ash cloud prompted the cancellation and delay of flights to and from Bali's international airport. The airport in Flores also closed temporarily. Several villages near the volcano were evacuated. While no injuries have been reported, ash is falling on homes and roads and is contaminating water supplies. According to experts, ash clouds pose serious risks to jet engines and could linger depending on wind. They also cautioned about potential lava flows and mudslides if rain follows. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz is facing growing criticism at home after saying on Tuesday that Israel is doing the West's dirty work by striking Iran's nuclear facilities. Speaking on the sidelines of the G7 summit, Merz praised Israel's actions as courageous, saying he has the greatest respect for its military campaign against Iran. The comments have stirred backlash among German lawmakers and human rights advocates. Critics argue Merz is normalizing targeted strikes that bypass international diplomacy and risk violating international law. However, Merz defended his stance, saying he stands by his remarks, though he declined to address criticisms directly. On Fano Island, off Denmark's southwestern coast, more than 5,000 kite enthusiasts from over 26 countries are taking part in the 40th anniversary of the island's International Kite Festival. Fano Island is uniquely positioned for the festival with its 16-kilometer length, 3-kilometer width, and reliable winds, making it ideal for kite flying. The festival runs from June 19th to 22nd, and family-friendly events, including workshops and demonstrations, will be offered.
Today marks the beginning of this summer's first monsoon rains for inland areas. Rain will begin on Jeju Island this morning, then spread to parts of southern regions this afternoon, then reaching central parts of Korea by tonight. Please be on alert as we're expecting heavy downpours in many parts of the country starting tomorrow afternoon. Until Saturday, the capital area in Gangwon-do province could see up to 120 millimeters of showers. Well, before the rain fully sets in, the heat will continue. It will be hotter today. Seoul will climb to 33 degrees Celsius. Wonju in Gangwon-do and Gyeongju both will be topping out at 34 degrees. Daegu and Daejeon will be as hot as Seoul, Gwangju getting up to 30 degrees Celsius. Monsoon rain in the central region will stop on Saturday, but it's expected to continue into early next week in the southern region. So please stay safe and prepared.
Now that's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.
도시는 세계와 연결되어 문화를 창조했고 새로운 것을 받아들였다.
함께여서 우리는 더 자유롭고 더 멀리 갈 수 있어.
닫힌 문이 아니라 열린 질문으로.
나에게 에이펙은
자유,
융합,
국제성,
다양성, 포용,
개방.
신라의 정신이 에이펙 2025로 이어집니다.
플라스틱 사실 편리하잖아요. 저조차도 활동을 하고 있지만 플라스틱을 사용할 정도로 생활에 많이 있다고 생각을 하는데요. 플라스틱을 대체할 수 있는 걸 계속해서 찾고 플라스틱이 아닌 다른 것을 사용하는 게 일상의 습관이 될 수 있도록 하는 것이 좀 중요하다고 생각을 해서 참새클럽 캠페인을 중점으로 활동하고 있습니다. 저희는 HDP랑 PP라는 두 가지 재질의 플라스틱을 모으고 있습니다. 보통 음식류에 사용되기 때문에 배달용기나 이런 곳에서 많이 볼 수 있고, 그리고 두 번째로는 저희가 업사이클 가공을 할 때 가장 유독물질이 덜 나오는 물질이기 때문입니다. 플라스틱을 많이 모으고 많이 제작하는 것이 목적이 아니다 보니까 저희는 시민분들한테 플라스틱 기부받고 리워드를 드리는 게 아니라 모아주신 플라스틱이 이렇게 재활용됐다는 걸 알리기 위해서 하는 프로젝트여가지고 이걸 약간 기부가 아닌 돌려드리는 개념으로 지금 하는 규칙을 사용하고 있는 것 같습니다. 불편한 거예요. 사실 이 플라스틱을 실제로 사용하는 걸 모으고 이걸 세척해서 가져오시고 하는 과정이 이 불편함을 사실 해주고 계신 것만으로도 저희는 되게 감사하죠. 나아가서 플라스틱을 사용하지 않을 수 있는 방법을 내는 것이 저희의 숙제이고요. 그리고 가장 중요한 건 이런 자원순환 활동에 있어서 시민 참여가 어떻게 얼마나 중요한 키워드로 적용이 되는지를 계속 말씀을 드리고 싶어요. 그래서 시민 참여 가이드를 조금 내는 게 저희의 목표이자 바람이라고 말씀드릴 수 있습니다. 나는 플라스틱을 순환시키는 그리너다.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation. Bringing news just for you. It's Thursday, June 19th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Julian Kim.
Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for coming in today. And Han-tae is also with us today.
Great to be here.
Good to have you. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. It's Thursday, which means that we are going to begin with our keyword news, where we focus on a story that is gaining traction. Today's keyword is tech addiction. 1 in 5 young people said their excessive smartphone or internet usage is disrupting their daily routines. A survey by the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family found that around 17% of the young people surveyed were classified as being at risk of media over-reliance. The number of at-risk youths was highest among middle school students, followed by high school students and elementary school students. Based on this survey, the government plans to provide counseling for at-risk youths. So, Teddy, do you also feel like you use technology way too much, and where do you usually use your phone for?
I do admit I use it too much, and these days it's kind of an addiction, but with your phone in your hands, you can do everything from banking to shopping to contacting people to everything you think about. So it's actually with me from the moment I wake up to the moment I go back to sleep. And I feel like that's not really healthy, but yes.
Right, that's so relatable because like even if I know that I shouldn't be looking at my phone, there's just so many things you can do on your phones, like keep looking at it. Can you relate with us on this?
Yeah, definitely. I do feel like I use my phone a lot, but I think it's really hard to live without our phone, especially in today's society. I'll use it to catch up with family, friends, news, go shopping, pay for things. The list just goes on, and all these things really just do add up, and it feels like I'm on my phone all day.
I agree.
Right, so it's easy to see how our screens have become central to our daily life, sometimes without us even realizing just how much time we're spending on them. And that concludes our keyword news for this Thursday. And as we head into the final stretch of the week, we're going to explore the latest lifestyle trends among our generation for today's main discussion. So let's take a look at the screen to find out more. Summer is here, and while you might think that people will be reaching for ice-cold beverages and chilled activities to cool down, in Korea it's a different story. There's a long-standing belief that the best way to beat the heat is with more heat, and you can see it in what people eat and do during the summer. On today's episode of NewsGen, we're going to dive into this unique Korean approach to staying cool in the summer and why more people around the world are catching on. Summer has officially arrived, and with it rising temperatures that often leave people searching for ways to stay cool. While trying to beat the heat with more heat may seem counterintuitive, this practice is not only deeply rooted in Korean culture, but it's also supported by science. And one common approach to staying cool is eating hot and spicy dishes. So Julian, let me start with a personal question. Do you personally enjoy spicy food?
Oh, definitely. I love spicy food a lot. I even have a giant bottle of hot sauce I brought back with me from America, and I put it on most of the food I eat at home. I do have a limit though. I can't really handle extremely spicy food, like 불닭 볶음면, for example. But in general, I like to have a little heat in my food. It just tastes better to me.
That's dedication to bring your own hot sauce.
Yep.
And I think it'd be really good on, I don't know if you know this show, it's on YouTube, it's called Hot Ones.
Oh yes, I love that one. I don't think I can handle the most spicy level, but all the way up to the medium level, I feel like it's my type.
Right, so for viewers who aren't familiar with the show, it's on YouTube, and it's a series, it's an interview series where celebrities come on and they try the hottest spicy like wings with the hot sauce on them. So what about you, Kenny?
Oh, I'm actually the opposite. So I'm quite amazed by the fact that you can have so much spicy stuff. And for me, actually, when you live in Korea, they tend to assume that you are really good at spicy food. But for me, coming from Italy, actually, that's not the situation, since I was used to eat no spicy food at all when I was back in Italy, and I could feel even 1 milligram of spiciness in my food, even though if it was like 1 kilo of pasta. But now, since I've been living in Korea for 10 years now, I got a little bit more used to it. I do not bring my hot spicy sauce with me, but I can handle a little bit of spiciness. So for example, like the ramen, the instant noodles, yeah, so there's the basic here, which is shin ramen, and I can have it a little bit.
So for viewers who aren't as familiar with it, you're from Italy.
Yes.
So is it uncommon for spicy food? Is that uncommon in Italy?
Actually, it's not really uncommon, but I do feel like that the spiciness is a bit different in Italy and in Korea. So in Italy, when you have spicy food, it's going just to put a little bit of chili in it. But in Korea, it's more a mix of sweet and spicy and salty stuff.
Right,
so I feel it's a bit different.
I see. So, Julian, why does spicy food become especially popular during the hot summer months?
Yeah, so Koreans love eating spicy food in general, but this is especially true in the summertime. We have to say here in Korea, 이열치열, which roughly translates to fighting heat with heat. And now this idea comes from the 동의보감, which is an ancient Korean medical text from the 1600s during the Joseon dynasty. Eating spicy food in hot weather is actually based on this very idea, and there is scientific reason behind it. Spicy food makes you sweat, and as the sweat evaporates, it cools down your body and lowers your core temperature. Now, I used to think that this was something that only Koreans really talked about or did, but even a few years ago, the British media covered just how eating spicy food can actually help you beat the summer heat too.
Right, so it's clear it's becoming a global trend. Teddy, do you have anything to add to this?
Actually, in Italy, we have the opposite style of eating. So when it's hot, we tend to have really fresh food, for example, fresh pasta, salad, or a lot of veggies. But when I came here in Korea, actually at first I thought maybe naengmyeon, which is cold soup noodles, might be the trend, might be something that Korean might enjoy during the summer, but I found out that it's not it. So a lot of people, they tend to have really hot broth and hot spicy food. And after I tried it for the first time, I actually felt the reason why they like it. You feel really refreshed after that. And there is actually a really interesting expression in Korean, which is 시원하다. So you might hear that a lot when you come to Korea. And 시원하다 can be translated to cool. So you might feel a bit, oh, that's something hot. Why is it cool? But actually, it refers to the feeling you feel in your body, which is a refreshing feel. So, yeah.
Right, I think what you said about feeling refreshed is so real because it's not just about the temperature, it's how your body actually feels afterwards.
Yeah.
So Julian, there's a common belief that spicy food can make you lose weight. Is there any truth to this?
Yes, there is some truth to that. A study conducted by researchers at Penn State University in the US involved 130 adults and found that those who ate spicy food consumed up to 18% less food compared to those who ate more milder dishes.
Well, that's very interesting. So Teddy, what are some examples of hot or spicy food?
Oh, the most eaten one in Korea, it's going to be samgyetang or tapbaeksuk. So they are both hot soups made with chicken. And actually, there is a really hot period in Korea, which goes from the mid of July to the mid of August, and it's called Pungnal. So you have in this period a lot of people they tend to eat this samgyetang a lot, especially during Chobok, Chumbok, and Malbok, which are the beginning, the mid, and the end day of this period. And you might see a lot of queues outside of samgyetang places around Seoul in this period. But if you want something more fancy, then there is another dish called haeshintang, which is also based on hot soups with chicken, but you also add to it abalone and octopus. And if you want to have it a little bit spicy, then I'd recommend you to try nakji볶음, which is stir-fried small octopus, and then 매운 갈비찜, which is I would call that pork ribs. Yeah, pork ribs stew. And then there is also turichigi, which is stir-fried pork. And they are really spicy, flavorful, and they're perfect when you want to sweet a little bit in the hot summer.
Right, and beyond food, and I'm looking forward to summer because all the food you list are some of my actually favorites. But beyond food, Julian, what are some other activities that people can do to fight the heat?
Yeah, so in Korea, there are many jjimjilbangs, which are also known as Korean-style saunas. Now, a typical one has both like a hot and cold baths, as well as like a dry and steam sauna that you can enjoy. Many Koreans enjoy going to them, especially even in the summertime too, which I personally didn't really fully understand at first. But with the whole theme of fighting heat with heat, it does make sense why many of us do like to go during the summer. I actually went to one last year in Busan in the summertime and when it was scorching hot, and I wasn't really sure how much I'd enjoy given how hot it was outside, but I did feel leaving a lot more rejuvenated than expected. Now you go into these saunas, sweat until your clothes are just completely drenched in sweat, and then you take a nice cold shower after. Wow. And when you're done with the whole process, you leave feeling feeling much more refreshed and energized, which I found to be very surprising. Now, the repeated expansion and contraction of your blood vessels help regulate body temperature, so it actually does help your body cope with the heat. And now it's not just in Korea too. Korean saunas are becoming very popular abroad too. In 2023, the Washington Post even recommended jjimjilbangs as a way to cool down during the summer.
I think you mentioned the hot steaming rooms, and some of them can even go up to like 70 degrees Celsius. And also, it's also the contrast, like you mentioned, there's also ice rooms and also like cold drinks that can have afterwards that your body really feels good afterwards. So Teddy, what about you? Do you know any other ways that people tend to stay cool?
Oh, another option you can try is doing outdoor activities, but of course you have to avoid the most hot period in the day, so it would be better to do it in the morning or late afternoon or evening. And actually there is something new in Seoul, which is barefoot walking paths, and they're made with soft earth, so you can walk barefoot on these paths and they are really warm. So when you're walking on that, you feel the warmth on your feet, but then you are also refreshed because of the breeze and the sweat you are doing. So I felt really amazing when I tried it, and I do suggest to try it once.
So we heard very different ways that Korea beats the heat. But since every culture has its own way of staying cool in the summer, we were curious to hear from our global viewers. So we asked on the Arirang News YouTube channel, what's your country's secret to beating the summer heat? And here are the answers we got from around the world. So Robin says in the US, almost everyone has air conditioning and ice. I can't imagine drinking water or soda warm, especially on a hot day. And Rosa said in Peru, we go to the beach early in the morning to surf in the ocean with huge waves, spending time on the beach to play and swim, and then relaxing under the umbrella waiting for the sunset. And Nate said, if you know the UK and how it is without AC here, I normally use a fan, but mine broke and it's boiling here. We'll also be joined by a millennial from Finland who will share how she beats the summer heat. And that's coming up after the break, so stay tuned.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Yulia, a millennial from Finland. Hi, Yulia.
Hello.
Hi. So how long have you lived in Korea?
Altogether for about 10 years.
So probably, oh, okay, wow, okay. So we're probably aware of how people, fight the heat in both Finland and Korea. So how do people in your country usually cope with the summer heat?
Well, honestly, Finland is quite famous for being a cold country, but we also have quite hot summers. So in Finland, we have over 188 lakes, and also in Helsinki, our capital, we have the Baltic Ocean just next to us. So a lot of Finnish people usually go to swim a lot. And then usually we didn't have the need for ACs, for example, but right now the temperatures are getting higher. So instead of ACs, people are using heat pumps because we think that they are maybe more eco-friendly, as well as that we can use them also in the winter time, as Finland has longer winters than the summer. So for us, I think they make more sense than having the big AC system installed in our homes.
So going off of that, have you ever tried the Korean fight heat with more heat approach this summer? Like, for example, visiting a Korean sauna, like a jjimjilbang?
Well, for sure, because honestly, the sauna culture in Finland is also huge. So I'm very used to going to sauna all year round. And also in Korea, I really do enjoy going to the Korean jjimjilbangs. But as a Finnish person, I think for summer heat, it really helps me when I do the sauna, but then go to the ice bath in the bathing zone. So that's very refreshing for me. But personally, I found it quite shocking that Koreans eat the hot food in the summertime, like samgyetang, and they really enjoy the hot broth. I didn't really understand how that can help, as Finnish people usually eat ice cream or cold drinks. But I love samgyetang, I love chicken, and I love chicken in a soup especially, so I really appreciate the Korean way of fighting the heat.
I feel like you. So, what's your plan for keeping cool this summer while still staying safe and enjoying yourself?
Well, I love summer because I'm so used to the long winters, so I think I will be using my small fan that is very hot and trendy in Korea, so to survive the public transportation. But also, I've seen that they have a lot of swimming pools next to Han River, so I'm hoping to visit those a lot this summer. And also, even though I love samgyetang, for me in summer, I still do love having a cup of naengmyeon, so the ice noodles, so that will, I think, keep me safe. And also remember to wear a lot of sun cream every day and reapply.
Right, so we were really wondering like how, because Finland is one of the, like you said, one of the cooler countries, so we're wondering how you celebrate it. So it's really interesting to see the contrast and also the similarities. So thank you so much for giving us your time and sharing your insight with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So we just heard from a millennial in Finland sharing how people there cope with the summer heat. It's interesting to see how different cultures embrace the season in their own ways. Now, before we wrap up, since summer is in full swing here, how are you both planning to stay cool? Any tips you'd like to share with our viewers? Julian, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I would say just stay inside all day and blast and crank that air conditioning, but I know that is very unrealistic to say. But I still do think that is the best way to stay cool. When temperatures are very, very high, especially in the middle of the day, try to stay indoors, stay hydrated, wear more light, breathable clothing, and maybe even perhaps try spicy food. I don't know, that could be an option too. But in general, it is important to stay hydrated and strengthen your stamina, as the summer heat is expected to be another really, really hot one.
So we talked about spicy food, but it's also very important to have everything in moderation and important to stay safe. So what about you, Teddy? Any tips?
Oh, last year Seoul had 34 tropical nights in a row, and I feel like this year is going to be similar or even longer. So it's important to stay hydrated. It's important to avoid too hot period of times outside. And there is this thing in Korea which says the banks are the coolest place. So if you're outside and you feel too hot, I suggest to just look for a bank
and hide out.
hide out. Yeah, that's the best. But I might say that in general, offices, shops, and also public transportations, they are really, really cold inside. So you might also catch a cold if you're not having a cardigan with you. So I suggest to always bring one with you. And I also, as Yulia also said, we also have a lot of pools around Seoul area, so I suggest you to try that out. And I also found out that in apartments lots, there's small water park for kids too, so you might find it useful too when you're around the city. And another thing I might say is just drink a lot of water or iced Americano as Koreans do, but I also suggest to try hot tea for too much hot weather.
So for anyone who's looking forward to visiting Korea, there's places to hide out, there's things to drink, and things to do as well. So whether it's a steaming bowl of spicy soup or a hot sauna session, Korea's approach to beating the heat might seem unusual, but for many, not only does it work, but it also has benefits. So this summer, maybe turning up the heat is exactly what we need to cool down. And that brings us to the end of our episode today on News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. A big thanks to Julian Kim.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for coming. And Hanteri.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. And to all our viewers, thank you so much for watching, and we hope you have the best day. We are
News Generation.
How to survive in Korea. Barbecue restaurants. Step 1. Taking care of your clothes. Put your jacket in the plastic bag. Seal it tight. If the stool flips open, store your clothes inside. Wearing light colors? Grab an apron. It's the best defense against oil splatter and smoke. Step 2. Bottomless side dishes. Basic side dishes at a barbecue restaurant. Eat, and eat as much as you want. Side dishes come with free refills. Oh, and if you don't see this sign, just ask, 사장님, 여기 밑반찬 좀 더 주세요. Simple, isn't it? Step 3. Grilling meat. There are various kinds of samgyeopsal in Korea. Place the meat on the grill. Turn it over when golden. And again when it looks done. Again and again and again. Step 4. Sam style. You aren't taking bites of sam like a taco, are you? In Korea, we have it in one bite. A pro tip here. Add only as much as you can handle in a bite. Gotta avoid awkward situations. Step 5. Enjoy the perks. After the meal, enjoy the perks offered at a Korean restaurant. Fabric refreshers get rid of the barbecue smell, while mint candies freshen your breath. Did you survive the barbecue restaurant? Hang on. Are you here with someone you want to impress? Then let's skip the garlic. Who knows what will happen?
Arirang TV is conducting an overseas TV viewer survey to provide you with a better global broadcast service. Share your valuable feedback on the Arirang TV website www.arirang.com or mobile application. Survey participants will be selected at random to receive special gifts. 2025 Arirang Overseas TV Viewers Survey. We look forward to hearing from you.
its first debate over the weekend.
The economy is expected to expand 2.5% this year.
Boosting Korea's ties with its global partners on the sidelines of the Status UN summit. A massive drone attack on Ukraine overnight on Monday and Tuesday.
Arirang.